The wrench slipped out of my hand and hit the ground with a loud clang, snapping me out of my focus. I glanced at the phone buzzing in my pocket, not recognizing the number. Honestly, I almost ignored it. Who picks up a random call in the middle of wrestling with a busted valve? But just as I turned back toward the leaking pipe, a name flashed across the screen that froze me in place: Brookside Elementary. My chest tightened. My hands were still wet with cold water, and I could barely breathe as I answered the call. Mr. Mitchell? The voice on the other end was tight, trembling, like she was barely holding herself together. This is Nurse Carla from Brookside Elementary. Your son, Logan, he collapsed during class. Paramedics took him to Oakwood General. He's in the ICU. I don't even remember ending the call. All I remember was the steady drip from the pipe behind me as I bolted upstairs, tripping over my toolbox on the way. The air outside felt thin, like I couldn't get a full breath no matter how hard I tried. I called Hannah. Voicemail. I called again. And again. 3 times. I didn't leave a message. What could I even say? That our 8-year-old, our one and only child, was lying in a hospital bed hooked up to machines? That everything we'd been fighting about, every cold night we spent sleeping back to back, didn't matter anymore? The rain came down in sheets as I drove. I still don't know how I didn't crash. My fingers were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My head was spinning with questions. What happened? Was he hurting? Was it his heart? Did he eat something bad? Did someone do something to him? Every red light felt like a punch to the gut. Every second of delay cut into me like a blade. When I finally made it to Oakwood General, I couldn't even remember where I parked. I ran through the automatic doors, soaked straight through. The smell of antiseptic smacked me in the face as I rushed to the front desk. The nurse looked up, clearly startled by the panic all over my face. My name's Caleb Mitchell. My son, Logan, he was brought in from Brookside Elementary. She nodded softly and typed something into her computer. Yes, he's in ICU room 4. The pediatrician is in with him right now. But your wife's family left his room just a little while ago. I blinked. You mean her parents? She nodded again. Yes, her parents and another woman. I think it was her sister. They'd already been here? I turned slowly toward the hallway she pointed at. And that's when I saw them. Hannah's parents and Chloe, her sister, strolling down the corridor like they'd just finished brunch. Her dad nudged her playfully. Chloe threw her head back, laughing. Her mom smoothed down her designer coat like nothing in the world could touch her. I don't know what I expected, maybe some concern, a few tears, even guilt if they knew something I didn't. But instead, I got laughter echoing off linoleum walls. My stomach twisted. I stood there frozen, halfway hoping one of them would acknowledge me, Logan's dad, but they passed right by like I was wallpaper. Like I wasn't even there. I clenched my jaw and turned toward the ICU. My boots squeaked on the tile. My hands were trembling as I reached for the door. I thought I was ready for anything. Tubes. Machines. Maybe even unconsciousness. But nothing could have prepared me for what I actually saw. What gutted me the most wasn't medical equipment or beeping monitors. It was the way my son looked at me like I was a stranger. He flinched. That tiny, terrified pullback from me told me more than any chart ever could. Something was deeply wrong, not just with his body, but in his heart. He wasn't relieved to see me. He was scared. Like someone had told him not to trust me. I stepped closer, trying hard to keep my voice calm. Hey, buddy, it's me. It's Dad. I'm here now. He stared at me, wide-eyed, pressing himself deeper into the bed like he needed to put as much space between us as he could. His lips parted like he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. A nurse walked in behind me holding a clipboard. Mr. Mitchell? The pediatrician will be in shortly. Logan is stable for now, but we'll be monitoring him very closely. I nodded, barely hearing her. My eyes never left my son. My curious, playful, dinosaur-obsessed little boy. What happened to you? Why do you look at me like I'm the bad guy? And more than anything, where the hell is your mother? The steady beep of the monitor beside Logan seemed louder than it should have been. I stood near the wall, trying to shrink myself, like maybe if I took up less space, he wouldn't be so afraid. My hands twitched, desperate to reach out and comfort him the way I used to when he skinned a knee or had a bad dream. But now just being near him made him recoil like I was a threat. Logan, I whispered gently, my voice as soft as I could make it, like I was talking to a bird perched on my palm. It's me. Dad. His eyes tracked me, but they didn't soften. No smile. No relief. Just that look, like he wasn't sure if I was safe anymore. Like someone had convinced him I wasn't. I'm here, I said again, stepping just a little closer. I came as fast as I could after the school called. Still no words. Just that heartbreaking flinch when I pulled a chair beside him. I sat down slowly, feeling like the air had turned to cement. My chest thudded. I couldn't let him see how shaken I was. I needed to be solid, the dad he remembered, the one he trusted. "Logan," I said, trying again, "can you tell me what happened? Are you in pain?" I leaned in just a bit, searching his face. "Is it your chest? Your stomach? Your head?" He blinked once, then barely opened his mouth and whispered, "No." "Let me know when you're ready for the next chunk. I'll keep the voice and style locked in." "All right," I managed to say, trying to sound steady. "Okay, that's good." Logan didn't look at me. His eyes drifted toward the window where rain tapped gently against the glass. His fingers nervously worked at the corner of his blanket. I wanted so badly to reach out, to take his hand in mine and let him feel I was there, solid, real, safe. I was his dad. But I couldn't move. Not when he looked like one wrong word would make him shut down completely. Just then, the door opened with a soft click and a nurse with warm eyes stepped inside. "Mr. Mitchell, the pediatrician will be with you shortly," she said kindly. "She's reviewing his scans now. Logan's vitals are stable, but we'll be watching him closely over the next few hours." "Thank you," I said, my voice low. I turned back toward my son, who hadn't moved an inch. Do you think she'll explain more?" I asked, like a man clinging to whatever scraps of hope he could find. "She's very thorough," the nurse replied gently. "He's in good hands." Then she was gone, and the quiet of the room settled back in like a heavy fog. Logan still lay there, pale and wordless. I tried to smile, desperate to stir something in him. "Remember that pizza joint we went to last month?" I asked. "The one that let you toss the dough like a real chef?" He blinked slowly. "You said you wanted to be a chef after that," I said with a soft laugh. "Told me I could be your assistant, so long as I didn't screw up the pepperoni." Still nothing. Not even a twitch at the corners of his mouth. The silence was crushing. I used to believe love, a real, strong love, was something kids never forgot. But now? I wasn't so sure. What had someone said to him? What had they done? And where the hell was Hannah? That thought hit me again like a sledgehammer to the chest. I pulled out my phone, checked for messages. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Just her cold, canned voicemail greeting. "This is Hannah. Leave a message." I wanted to scream. My son was lying in a hospital bed and his mother was nowhere to be found. Her whole family had already been and gone, and apparently they stayed just long enough to share a few laughs on their way out. Why would they be smiling if something was seriously wrong? And why was Logan this afraid if nothing had happened? I looked at him again, really looked. The way he hugged the blanket to his chest like a shield. That fear in his eyes, it wasn't from a sudden medical episode. No, that was something older. Something that had been building for a while. I cleared my throat and asked softly, "Hey buddy, did something happen at school today?" His eyes flicked toward me, then away. His mouth moved like he was about to speak, but then stopped. "It's all right," I said quickly. "You don't have to talk right now. Just know I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." That's when the door opened again. This time it wasn't a nurse, it was someone new. A woman in a white coat, maybe early 40s, calm eyes, and the kind of presence that lets you know she's seen a lot. "I'm Dr. Bennett," she said with a small nod. "Mr. Mitchell, would you mind stepping out with me for a moment?" I glanced at Logan, then back at her. "Can I stay close?" "Just down the hall." "He'll be okay," she said, reassuring but firm. I nodded slowly and got to my feet. Logan didn't reach for me. Didn't say a word. Just watched me walk away like I was some stranger disappearing out the door. And as I followed Dr. Bennett down the corridor, one thought screamed through my head louder than anything else. Why does my son look like he's scared of me? She led me into a small consultation room just down the hall. It had that sterile hospital smell, bleach, plastic, and worn-out upholstery. I sat in a stiff chair that felt like it had been built for punishment, not comfort. Dr. Bennett stayed standing, flipping slowly through Logan's chart. Her face wasn't alarmed, but it wasn't relaxed either. It was careful, the kind of look a doctor wears when they're balancing facts with someone's breaking point. After a moment, she met my eyes. "Mr. Mitchell, I want to start by saying that your son is physically stable. His heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, all within normal range. We ran a full panel, did imaging, even checked his brain function. No signs of seizure activity, no trauma, no infection." I stared at her, confused. "Then, what happened? Why'd he collapse?" She finally sat across from me, her tone gentle but steady. "Logan's episode appears to have been brought on by severe psychological distress. This wasn't a physical failure. It was his mind shutting down. In children his age, when they're under ongoing emotional strain, sometimes the brain just pulls the emergency brake. It's a defense mechanism." I couldn't breathe for a second. "You're saying it wasn't his heart? Or his lungs?" "No," she said softly. "It was fear. Stress. Something or someone in his life is making him feel unsafe enough that his body reacted like this. I leaned forward, my hands clenched between my knees. But he's 8. He's happy, he plays, he jokes, he builds Lego cities across my kitchen floor. Dr. Bennett gave a small nod. Has anything changed at home lately? Any tension between you and his mother? New caregivers? Arguments he might have overheard? I hesitated. My wife and I, yeah, we've been off. She thinks I'm not going anywhere. I work plumbing jobs and she's in marketing. Her folks never liked me much to begin with. Lately, she's been spending more time with them than with me. The doctor scribbled something on her clipboard. Does Logan stay with them often? I nodded. Sometimes, yeah. When she works late or needs space. He seems to like them, or at least I thought he did. Dr. Bennett closed the folder. Mr. Mitchell, Logan's teacher, said this happened during a school activity. A presentation called a family collage. The kids were asked to bring in photos of their families and talk about them in front of the class. My heart stopped. He's been working on that all week, I said. Told me his grandma was helping him pick out pictures. She looked straight at me. According to the teacher, when Logan's turn came, he walked to the front of the class, looked down at his collage, and froze. She said he stood there, completely silent, for nearly a minute. Then he dropped it, clutched his chest, and collapsed. I felt the blood drain from my face. What was on that collage? We don't know, she said. It was damaged when he fell. The teacher had mentioned something odd about Logan's collage. There were only 3 pictures, she said. All of them were of your wife's side of the family. Not a single one of you. I just stared at her. None of me. She gave a small shake of her head. Not one. I swallowed hard, feeling a tight ache in my chest. He wouldn't leave me out like that. He loves me, I know he does. I believe you, she replied gently. But I don't think this is about love. I think it's about fear. She continued, explaining that Logan had been briefly observed by the pediatric trauma specialist, Dr. Linden, someone with deep experience in childhood emotional distress. According to her, Logan's posture, his eyes, the way he pulled inward, all of it pointed to guilt and repression. He was keeping something buried. Something someone had told him not to share. My head was spinning. You think someone told him to leave me out? I asked, though I already knew the answer in my gut. Dr. Bennett gave a quiet nod. It's very possible. And the way he flinched when you walked into the room, that's another warning sign. I rubbed my face, trying to make sense of everything. So, what happens now? What do we do? She's going to speak with Logan more in the coming days, Dr. Bennett said softly. But Mr. Mitchell, I want to prepare you. If emotional manipulation is involved, it won't be quick or simple to unravel. And if it came from people he trusts, it's even harder. I leaned back in the chair, completely stunned. His own family? The ones I trusted to help? There are many forms of emotional abuse, she continued. Coercive language. Alienating a child from someone they love. Teaching them that love is conditional, something they have to earn. It doesn't leave bruises, but it can leave deep scars. I sat in silence, staring at the floor. Hannah's voice from the week before came roaring back in my head. You're not evolving. You're stuck. I need more than this. And now this. Dr. Bennett stood. I'll have Dr. Linden come in to speak with you soon. But if I can offer one piece of advice right now, stay close. Be here. Even if Logan seems afraid, don't pull away. He needs to remember what safety looks like. I stood, my legs unsteady beneath me. I just want to fix this, I said quietly, trying to hold it together. She gave me a kind look. Then start by showing up every day. Every hour if you can. Let him remember who his dad really is. When I stepped back into the hallway, a knot of dread churned in my stomach. I looked toward Logan's room, aching for the boy behind that door, the one who used to run into my arms without hesitation. Now he barely even recognized me. And I was starting to wonder if that was no accident. I stood there for a while, just outside his room, staring down the sterile corridor. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, casting a cold shine across the tile. I didn't move. Couldn't. My mind kept flashing back to that moment burned into memory, Hannah's family walking out of this very hospital like they had just left a damn spa. No tears. No urgency. No red eyes. And that laugh, Chloe's light, carefree laugh, it echoed in my head like a taunt. It didn't add up. None of it did. Logan didn't collapse from something physical. It wasn't a seizure. Not food poisoning. Not a virus. No, it was stress. Pure emotional overload. And I was supposed to believe that the people who'd been spending the most time with him, the ones who were just in that room, had nothing to do with it? Just then, the same nurse from earlier passed by again. She smiled politely, noticing me still rooted in place. You holding up okay, Mr. Mitchell? I nodded, though that was far from the truth. Trying to. She glanced at the chart in her hand, then looked toward Logan's room. He's resting. We gave him a light sedative to help him relax. He should wake in a few hours. I gave another slow nod. Has my wife been by? My voice was low, hesitant. I've been calling, but... The nurse's expression shifted. She hesitated. No, just her parents and her sister. They were here with him for a bit. How long? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Maybe an hour. A little more. She paused, then added, they asked that he not be disturbed. Said too many faces might confuse him. I froze. They said that. She nodded. They told us they were his comfort circle, that too much new stimulation could be upsetting. My jaw clenched. Comfort circle. Like I wasn't even part of it. The nurse tilted her head, her tone suddenly more cautious. Honestly, it felt a little off. Most families don't set those kinds of boundaries unless there's some kind of custody issue. I checked the system twice, there's no note about that. There isn't, I said firmly. I'm his father. She gave a small nod. Of course. I just thought you should know. I swallowed hard, anger threatening to boil over. Thank you. I appreciate it. As she walked away, I turned my gaze back to Logan's door. I needed to know what had been said to him, what they'd been feeding him while I wasn't around. The idea that people who were supposed to love him would convince him to erase me from his life, from a simple school project, wasn't just neglect. It was deliberate. And then it hit me. Last week, Logan had mentioned that collage. Grandma says this project's really important, he'd said. I asked what pictures he was using, and he just smiled. Only the best ones. I offered to help, but he waved me off. It's okay. Grandma and Grandpa said they've got it covered. At the time, I thought it was sweet, thought they were bonding. Yeah? It felt like a setup. Like they were rewriting the meaning of family right in front of him, one photo at a time. I couldn't just let that sit. If Hannah wasn't going to give me answers, I'd find them myself. I turned and walked toward the waiting room. It was mostly empty now, just a couple folks sitting quietly and the hum of a vending machine against the far wall. I stepped outside into the misty air and pulled out my phone. Still nothing from Hannah. No texts. No missed calls. Just silence. I scrolled to Chloe's number and hovered over the call button. My thumb shook. I didn't want to talk to her, didn't even want to see her name, but I needed answers. Instead, I sent a text. Why was I missing from Logan's collage? No response. A minute passed. Then another. 5 minutes. Then I saw the 3 dots. Chloe, it's complicated. You don't understand what Hannah's going through. Me, this isn't about her. It's about Logan. He collapsed because of something he couldn't say out loud. Chloe, we were trying to protect him. Kids feel tension, Caleb. You and Hannah fight a lot. Me, so your solution was to erase me? No reply. I stood in the drizzle for another minute, rain misting my jacket, before heading back toward the ICU. My son was lying behind that door. And I didn't give a damn what excuses Chloe or her parents thought they had. No amount of tension in a marriage justifies screwing with a child's sense of identity. When I stepped back into the room, I saw him stir. Logan shifted slightly. His eyes fluttered open, still groggy but aware. I moved closer, placed my hand gently on the blanket beside him. Hey there, buddy, I whispered. He blinked up at me, slow and soft. This time, there was no flinch. Just exhaustion in his eyes, the kind that goes way beyond being tired. I'm here, I said softly, pulling the words from someplace deep. And I'm not going anywhere. He gave me the slightest nod, almost imperceptible, but it meant everything. Still, I knew this wasn't done. This wasn't about a school project or one bad afternoon or a single scary trip to the ER. No, this was the start of something much bigger, something calculated, quiet, and cruel. And I was going to find out just how far down the rabbit hole it went. The room was dim, lit only by the green pulse of the heart monitor beside his bed. It ticked out a steady rhythm, each beat echoing through the hollow in my chest. I sat next to Logan, gripping the cold metal rail of the hospital bed just to stop my hands from shaking. He'd been asleep for about an hour now, curled up like a comma, his breathing shallow but even. I watched the slow rise and fall of his chest like it was a promise that he was still mine, that I hadn't lost him completely. Then he stirred. It was small at first, a twitch of his fingers, a little movement in his brow. But then his eyes opened. And when he looked at me, I saw something I hadn't seen since I'd walked into that room. Recognition. Not joy. Not relief. Just knowing me. And that somehow was a victory. Hey, bud, I whispered, my voice barely there. He blinked up at me and there it was again, a flicker of hesitation, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to believe I was real. I'm here, I told him again. I've been right here the whole time. You scared the hell out of me, you know that. His lips parted just a little and I saw his throat shift as he swallowed. Then, in the quietest, most broken voice, he said, "You came." It hit me like a truck. You came. As if that was a surprise. Like it hadn't even occurred to him that I would be here. What the hell had they told him? What had they buried so deep in his mind that my being at his side felt like some unexpected miracle? "Of course I came," I said, brushing my hand gently across the edge of his blanket. "Nothing could ever keep me away from you." He stared at me for a long, heavy moment. Then his voice cracked. "They told me not to tell you." Everything inside me froze. I leaned in slowly, carefully. "Who told you that, Logan?" He looked toward the nightstand. Sitting there was his school-issued tablet, the one they use for homework, class messages, and assignments. He didn't touch it. Just stared at it like it was glowing with something toxic. My eyes followed his. They said, his voice was barely a whisper, "You'd stop loving me." The air went right out of my lungs. "Logan," I said, my voice shaking as I tried to hold it together, "I would never, never stop loving you. Not ever. You hear me? There's nothing you could do or say that would change that." He didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the tablet, his hands fidgeting under the covers. "Who told you that?" I asked again, firmer now but still gentle. "It's okay. You're safe. You can tell me." Still nothing. But his gaze stayed locked on that device. That damn screen. My stomach twisted. I reached over and picked it up slowly. "Is it on here?" I asked. He gave the faintest nod. Then he turned his face toward the wall like he didn't want to see me looking at it. Like he was ashamed. "What's the password?" I asked, crouching beside the bed. For a while, he didn't say anything. The silence stretched. Then finally, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, he whispered, "Dinor. 27. Of course. Dinosaurs. And his favorite number." I typed it in. The screen came alive. Notifications slid down like confetti, class messages, app updates, missed alerts. But one icon blinked red. A private chat app, school approved, supposedly for safe family contact. I tapped it open. And then I saw it. Thread after thread. Message after message. All from Hannah's mom, her dad, and Chloe. Hundreds of them. Each username color-coded, each time-stamped, like someone had been carefully documenting their campaign to erase me. I clicked into one. "Your dad doesn't understand you like we do." Another. "You're too special for someone like him. He doesn't see it. Don't tell Daddy. He wouldn't care. Real men don't cry like your dad does. You don't need to include him. He's just temporary." Each one felt like a scalpel, carving me out of my own son's life. Each word designed to push me out and make sure Logan never looked back. I opened the thread labeled Family Collage. Photos. Feedback. Messages. "You did so great, Logan. Mommy's going to love this. And remember, don't tell Daddy. He might get upset." I wanted to throw the tablet against the wall. I wanted to scream. Instead, I turned to Logan. His eyes had shifted. He was watching me now. "They said you'd be mad if I showed you," he whispered. I set the tablet down and reached for his hand. "I'm not mad at you, kiddo. Not even a little." His chin quivered. I thought you wouldn't love me anymore." That cracked something wide open in me. "I'm angry that they made you believe that," I said gently, firmly. "That's not love, Logan. That's not what family is supposed to be." A tear slipped down his cheek. Then another. "You're my son," I told him, squeezing his hand. "And nothing will ever change that." He turned toward me slowly, finally, and his little fingers curled into mine. Small. Shaky. But reaching. "Promise," he whispered. "I swear it," I said. And I meant it with everything I had. "I know," I said. And in that moment, in that simple acknowledgement, the boy who once recoiled from my presence started to come back. I sat there with Logan's tablet in my lap, my thumb hovering over the screen like it was some kind of detonator. The messages stared back at me, still lit up. I'd already seen more than enough to make my stomach twist into knots, but I kept scrolling. Some stubborn part of me needed to see it all to understand just how far the damage went. Every message was like another brick in a wall carefully built to shut me out of my son's life while keeping him emotionally shackled to them. Who does this to a child? The deeper I went, the clearer the pattern became. Hannah's mother? She was subtle. Her poison was sugar-coated in warm, comforting phrases. "Sweetheart, you don't need to trouble your daddy with little things. He's busy fixing houses, not feelings." Her dad was more blunt. "When your mom moves on, you'll live with real adults. You'll see." And Chloe? Cruel. Blunt. No pretense. "You'll thank us someday when you're not like him." Complete with laughing emojis like it was all some sick joke. But it wasn't just what they said, it was when they said it. Every night, like clockwork, they'd message Logan right before bed. Sometimes they reminded him to delete the chats. Other times they sent videos, happy little clips from brunches or vacations, always featuring their side of the family. Never me. And always with the caption, "This is your real family." And then there was the worst part, the damn family collage. They walked him through the entire thing, picture by picture, background selection, title ideas. The background? A photo of their beach house. The title? "The people who keep me safe." Not a single picture of me. Not even one. I let the tablet slip in my lap. My hand was numb. Across from me, Logan had drifted back to sleep, his face still creased in a frown even in rest. I studied him. Really studied him. His shoulders looked smaller, somehow weighed down by things no kid should have to carry. He hadn't just been putting together a school assignment. He'd been constructing a wall. One made of guilt, of confusion, of shame that didn't belong to him. They'd made him think I didn't belong. And worst of all, they nearly pulled it off. I stood slowly, walked into the hallway, and pulled out my phone. I called Dr. Linden. She needed to see this. When she picked up, I didn't waste time. "Dr. Linden, it's Caleb Mitchell. I need to show you something. It's about the messages." "I'll be right there," she said. 5 minutes later, she walked in, clipboard tucked under her arm. I handed her the tablet without saying a word. Her eyes darkened as she scrolled. She flipped through thread after thread, silent, lips tightening with every new line of text. She tapped through photos, media files, screenshots. Then she looked up at me, and her face said everything. "This is deliberate," she said quietly. "Targeted. Systematic." She paused, her tone harder now. "This isn't just emotionally unhealthy, it's coercive. These people have been actively reshaping your son's understanding of love and family." I nodded, my jaw locked. "So I'm not crazy?" "No," she said firmly. "And more importantly, Logan's not. What he's experiencing falls under psychological child abuse. Specifically, coercive emotional manipulation. It may not be a household term, but its consequences are very real." I swallowed hard. "Can this be used in court? For custody? Protection orders?" She nodded. "Yes. Especially now that it's documented. I'll prepare a full report and submit it to the hospital administration. That'll trigger a mandatory child welfare review." My throat was dry as I exhaled. "They've been doing this behind my back for months." She met my eyes. "But now you know. And now we do something about it." We went back into Logan's room. He was awake again, fidgeting with the edge of his blanket, his eyes bouncing between me and Dr. Linden. She crouched beside his bed, her voice soft and calm. "Logan, do you remember some of the rules they gave you at Grandma and Grandpa's house?" He nodded, slow, unsure. "Can you tell me a few?" she asked gently. He hesitated, then whispered, "No talking about Daddy. No showing messages. Don't cry when I'm there." My heart cracked in half. "And when you wanted to talk about your dad," she continued, "how did that make you feel?" Logan didn't speak. He just touched his chest, right over his heart. "That did it. I almost lost it." "Thank you, Logan," she said softly. "You're very brave for telling me that." He looked over at me then, and in his eyes, I saw something new. Not fear, not shame. Hope, small but real. I took his hand and held it gently. "They tried to make you forget me," I said, voice rough with emotion. "But we know better now, don't we?" He nodded slowly. "You always come back," he said. I squeezed his hand tighter. "I always will," I promised. And I meant every word. No one. Not with messages, not with sweet lies in family group chats, not with manipulation wrapped in polite smiles, was ever going to take my son from me again. Not ever. The next morning, something had shifted. The ICU felt different. Not warmer exactly, just more alert. Like the walls themselves knew something had changed. Logan was still asleep, curled into himself in the way only exhausted kids do. His little body had finally shut down after carrying too much for too long. Dr. Linden and I sat quietly in a corner of the room, the tablet glowing between us. We had transferred every message to a hospital-issued flash drive, but we were still combing through the original data, matching timestamps, identifying patterns. She pointed to a particular string of messages. "This thread right here, it's key," she said. "Look at the way they phrase it. They refer to themselves as real family, but describe you as conditional, like you're just an option." I leaned in. They didn't just push me aside. They made him feel ashamed for loving me. She gave a slow, solemn nod. "Exactly. That's emotional triangulation. When a child is forced to feel like love is something they have to earn, like they have to pick a side, especially when one side is constantly reinforcing that they're the better one. I sat back. The truth of it hit hard. He used to laugh when I walked in the room, I said quietly. Now, he looks at my face like he's not sure what I'm bringing with me. That's not him, she replied. That's what was planted in him. There was a knock at the door. A nurse peeked in. Dr. Linden, the review board's ready for you. Should I carry your file? She shook her head. I'll take it myself. She turned to me. I'll be back in an hour. Stay with him. Just be here. That's the most powerful thing you can do right now. Then she left, and I sat back down beside Logan. I watched him sleep, watched his fingers twitch gently as he dreamed. I wondered what he was seeing behind his closed eyelids, if he knew I was there beside him, if he felt it. Eventually, he stirred. He blinked slowly, like waking up was a chore. Then his eyes met mine. No flinch, no confusion, just curiosity, the kind that belongs to a kid trying to believe again. Hey, bud, I said. He yawned, rubbing one eye. You stayed. Of course I did. He nodded, sleepy and small. They said you don't like hospitals. I smiled gently. Doesn't matter. I like you. They were wrong, I told him. I don't hate hospitals. I just hate that you're in one. That's a whole different thing. Logan turned away for a second, eyes distant. They said, you'd forget about me if I got sick. That shattered me. I knelt beside the bed so I could look him right in the eye. Listen to me, Logan. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could ever make me forget you. You're my son. You're my world. I don't care if you're sick, sad, or just having a rough day. I'll always show up for you. He stared at me wide-eyed, and I could see it. Something starting to crack inside. The wall they built around him, it was loosening brick by brick. You promise? He asked, voice small. I swear it, I said without hesitation. He shifted upright a bit and reached toward the nightstand, pulling out a crumpled sheet of paper from beneath a coloring book. His hands were shaking as he handed it to me. This was the first collage I made, he whispered, before they told me to change it. I unfolded the paper carefully, like it was sacred. It was rough, clearly just a draft. Some of the photos were taped instead of glued, and stick figures had been scribbled in, one tall, one short. One even had a little beard like mine. And right there in the center was a picture of us at a baseball game, matching hats, both of us grinning like idiots. Logan's smile in that photo was pure joy. My throat went tight. I like this one better, he said, so quietly it almost broke me. But they said Mommy wouldn't like it. That was the first time he'd brought up Hannah. I kept my voice calm. You know what, buddy? This one's perfect. This one tells the truth. He gave a tiny, almost shy smile. You think so? I know so. I folded the collage gently and slipped it into the inside pocket of my jacket. It was evidence, yes, but more than that, it was a piece of my boy. A piece they hadn't erased. Dr. Linden returned not long after. She shut the door behind her, and her eyes were focused in that way professionals get when the tide's about to turn. They're taking this seriously, she said. The hospital has officially flagged this as a psychological abuse case. Child Protective Services will be involved as of today. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It was the first time in hours I felt like I could really breathe. What about Hannah? I asked. She hasn't responded to any of our calls, she said, her tone sharp. That'll be addressed during the review. If she was complicit or even just negligent, the consequences will be severe. I glanced at Logan. He was coloring again, the tension in his little shoulders noticeably lighter. You weren't just pushed aside, Dr. Linden said, her voice softer now. You were being erased. But this, she nodded toward the tablet and the folded collage in my jacket. This is how we take that back. I nodded. They tried to rewrite his world. Now, I was going to help him build it back from scratch. A nurse stepped into the room with a clipboard and a cautious voice. Mr. Mitchell? Your in-laws are back. They're asking to see Logan. I froze. Not from fear, not this time. I paused with purpose. I was calculating my next move. I was ready. Where are they? I asked, standing and sliding the tablet into my back pocket. Down the hall, near the double doors, she said, pointing past the nurse's station. I turned to Logan. I'll be right back. He looked up from his coloring book. Okay. Then, just as I stepped toward the door, he added, you don't have to let them in if you don't want to. That single sentence hit me harder than any therapy session ever could. He saw it now. He understood. And more than that, he trusted me to protect him. I got you, I said. Then I stepped into the hallway. They didn't see me at first. Hannah's father was leaning against the wall, casually flipping through his phone like he was waiting for a lunch reservation. Her mom was dabbing lipstick on in a compact mirror. Chloe was glued to her phone, probably scrolling through Instagram, her face smug and unbothered. None of them looked worried. None of them looked like they were here for a sick child. I stopped 5 feet from them. Don't take another step, I said. Hannah's dad looked up, eyes blank. Caleb, he said like I was the one who didn't belong. We're just here to check on the boy. The boy? I repeated. You mean my son? Her mom rolled her eyes. Oh, stop. You're being dramatic. Am I? I asked, pulling out the tablet and unlocking it. Because what you've been doing isn't just manipulative, it qualifies as psychological abuse. And I've got the receipts. Chloe laughed, sharp and dry. You gonna get us arrested for texting a kid some encouragement? I scrolled through the messages, held the screen up. Encouragement. I snapped. You told him I don't love him. You told him not to include me in a school project. You told him I'm not his real family. And now you're surprised he collapsed in front of a classroom. Her mom's face turned stony. You're twisting our intentions. We were just trying to help him understand. Understand what? I said. That I'm disposable? That the man who raised him, fed him, read to him, made dinosaur pancakes every Sunday morning doesn't belong. Her father stepped closer, jaw tight. We did what we thought was best. Hannah isn't happy. She's been talking about leaving you for months. I stared him down. Then she should have had the guts to tell me herself. Instead, you all worked behind my back and started poisoning my son's mind. A voice cut in from behind us. Is there a problem here? 2 hospital security officers approached, flanking Dr. Linden, who stood behind them with her arms crossed, calm but immovable. I turned to them. Yes. These people are not authorized to see my son. They've been emotionally manipulating him for months. There's now a report filed with CPS. They're to have no contact with him. Her mom gasped. You can't be serious. We are very serious, ma'am, Dr. Linden said, stepping forward. I've filed a full clinical report documenting coercive emotional manipulation. The hospital has grounds to bar access until a formal investigation is completed. Chloe scoffed. This is ridiculous. We were just trying to protect him. From what? I cut in. From love? From consistency? From a father who didn't grow up in a mansion or drink from crystal glasses at Christmas. I stepped closer. You don't get to protect him from me just because I'm not polished enough for your family photos. Her dad growled, you're just mad we told him the truth. I narrowed my eyes. No. I'm mad that I didn't find out sooner. That you almost got away with it. I turned to the guards. Please escort them out. And make it clear they don't come near my son again. The security officers didn't hesitate. They stepped in, positioning themselves between me and the hallway like some kind of last stand. Hands relaxed, but deliberate. You'll regret this, Hannah's mother hissed, her voice low and bitter. No, I said, walking slowly back toward the ICU doors. What I'll regret is letting you all get away with it for as long as I did. The guards escorted them away. Their protests echoed down the hallway but grew quieter with every step. It was the sound of a chapter finally closing. Dr. Linden walked beside me as I returned to Logan's room. That took real strength, she said. Not just standing your ground, confronting that wall of privilege and entitlement head-on. I wasn't scared, I replied quietly. Just tired. Tired of pretending I didn't see it. When I stepped back into the room, Logan looked up from his coloring book. I smiled and held up the tablet. They won't be coming back, I told him. He tilted his head. Ever? Ever, I said. His shoulders dropped. His whole body seemed to exhale. When I sat down beside him, he leaned in hesitant at first, then rested his head against my side. And just like that, a part of him came back to me. The fallout started fast. By the end of the week, I had filed for an emergency protection order. Dr. Linden's report backed it up, along with the hospital's official statement. We submitted everything, timestamped chats, Logan's testimony, even notes from his teacher about how his behavior had changed over the last few months. Ridgeview Medical's legal team moved quickly. Not only were Hannah's parents and sister blocked from any contact with Logan, but CPS launched a formal investigation. I never wanted to go this route, but they left me no choice. They didn't just cross a line. They burned it and danced on the ashes. The morning the order was granted, I stood outside the courthouse, paper in hand. No joy. No celebration. Just the quiet, heavy feeling of doing what had to be done to protect my son. Hannah never showed up. Didn't call. Didn't text. Silence had become her answer. When the hospital reached out, she ignored them. When CPS contacted her, she finally gave a rehearsed response, claimed she had no idea what her family had been doing, said she was being blamed for their actions. But there were cracks in her story. Big ones. And all the evidence we had? It slipped right through those cracks. The next time I saw her wasn't in therapy. It was at a law office. She sat across the table, arms crossed, her lawyer beside her in a sharp gray suit. Her face was tense, not apologetic, not concerned. Just irritated. Like she was more offended by being dragged into this than shaken by what had actually happened to her own son. "You really think I would hurt Logan?" she asked. "You honestly believe that?" I didn't raise my voice. Didn't flinch. I simply slid a copy of the original collage across the table, the one with only her family in it. The one Logan had been told to present. "Maybe you didn't tell them what to say," I said, "but you didn't stop them. You gave them more time with him than you gave me. You trusted them more than you trusted me." Her attorney tried to speak, but Hannah raised her hand. "You've never understood my family," she said flatly. "No," I replied. "I understood them just fine. What I didn't see was how far they go once you let them." That meeting ended with signed divorce papers and a temporary custody agreement pending full review. She didn't fight it. I don't know if it was guilt, shame, or if she was just tired. But she didn't ask to see Logan that week. She packed up her things, moved out, and left the apartment quieter than it had ever been. For a while, it was just me and Logan. That first weekend, we went to the park just like we used to before everything cracked. At first, he moved slowly, unsure if it was okay to feel happy again. But then he smiled. Really smiled. And for a brief second, I saw the kid I almost lost. We started finding a rhythm. One day at a time. I cooked dinner every night, and we made a game out of it. Logan picked a secret ingredient, and I had to work it into the meal. Tuesday night spaghetti? Cinnamon. He thought it was genius. I signed him up for therapy twice a week with Dr. Linden, and little by little, the stories started coming out. He talked about the rules they gave him. How he wasn't allowed to draw our house. How they praised him when he said I was too busy or didn't show up. They rewarded distance. They punished affection. They tried to shift his attachment away from you, Dr. Linden explained. But your consistent, steady, unconditional presence, that's what's bringing him back. And I could see it. The truth was coming out not just in words, but in the way Logan moved, the way he breathed. He started drawing again. His favorite? A crayon drawing of the two of us on a spaceship blasting aliens with water guns. At the bottom, he'd written, "Me and Daddy. Team forever." I hung it right on the fridge. A week later, he came home with a new school assignment, a redo of the collage project. This one was called My Real-Life Heroes. He didn't ask for help. He did it himself. And when he showed it to me, I couldn't say anything for almost a full minute. I just stared. There were only two photos. One of me holding him on my shoulders during last year's 4th of July parade. The other of us in the backyard, eating popsicles, both of us mid-laugh, sticky juice dripping down our arms. No filters. No posing. No perfection. Just life. Just love. At the bottom of the page, he had written, "My hero doesn't wear a cape. He wears old jeans and smells like tools. But he always comes back." I didn't cry in front of him. But that night, once he was asleep, I did. Because that project, it wasn't just a homework assignment. It was a statement. They tried to erase me. Logan rewrote the ending. And this time, I was right in the center where I belonged. The rain returned on a quiet Saturday morning, tapping gently against the kitchen window like the sky itself was breathing easier. The air felt lighter. Softer. Logan sat up on the counter, legs swinging, flipping through a comic book while I poured pancake batter into the skillet, his favorite kind, blueberry with way too much syrup. His t-shirt swallowed him, arms tucked inside, and he yawned like a kid who hadn't had a worry in the world. That alone? A miracle. "Dad," he said suddenly, lowering the comic. "Can we take a photo today?" "A photo?" I turned, spatula in hand, blinking. He nodded, eyes clear. "One with just us. I want to hang it in my room. Right where the old one was." My throat tightened. That spot on his wall had been empty for weeks, ever since the night he quietly took down the old frame. The one his grandparents helped him make. He never said why. He didn't have to. Now he wanted to fill that space with us. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "We can do that. You want the timer or selfie mode?" "Timer," he grinned. "That way it's like, real? Like we got caught being cool." I laughed. "Exactly. We spent the rest of the morning taking pictures on the porch, in the kitchen, even with frying pans like trophies. But the one he picked in the end was simple, him sitting on my shoulders, arms stretched like wings, both of us smiling with the morning light behind us and the couch in the background. Afterward, he printed it from his tablet and clipped it into a frame. "I want this one to stay up forever," he said. "Even when I get tall." "You're already getting tall," I said, ruffling his hair. "You're like 4 feet and counting." He puffed his chest. 3.5. We both laughed. Later that afternoon, I drove him to the community center for his Saturday soccer class, something new he wanted to try. He said he wanted to be fast. And even though he spent most of the first session kicking the ball into the wrong goal, he loved every second of it. When I dropped him off, he turned around before joining the others. "You'll be here when I'm done, right?" "Every time," I said. That question used to be full of fear. Now it was something else. Something softer. A check-in. A confirmation. I had become his safe place again. Not because I yelled louder than the people who tried to replace me, but because I stayed. I showed up. I waited. While he played, I sat under a tree on the sidelines, watching the kids run across the field like little whirlwinds. Next to me sat Coach Ray, a guy I'd only known in passing until recently. His kid was in Logan's class, and somehow we'd both become anchors for each other in this weird new chapter of life. "You're doing good, man," Ray said. "I still on the field. You and your boy, you've got that rhythm." I smiled faintly. "We're getting there." "It's not about being perfect," he said. "It's about being present." I nodded. That's the lesson that keeps showing up over and over. Back home that night, Logan helped me set the table. He hummed while he worked, just little made-up songs or jingles from cartoons. He did that a lot more these days. We ate dinner together, talked about his missed penalty kick, argued over whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Later, after bath time and brushing teeth, I tucked him in beneath his dinosaur blanket. "Dad?" he said, his eyes wide but sleepy. "Yeah, Coach Ray and Uncle Darius. Can they be in a photo too? For my dresser, not the wall. Just, like family." A lump rose in my chest. Not the kind that hurt, but the kind that felt like healing. "Absolutely," I said. "Family isn't just who you're born to. It's who stays." He smiled. "Then we should do a photo day. Everyone who stayed. No liars." I chuckled. "Deal." As he rolled onto his side, I pulled the blanket up to his chin and paused. "You know you're safe now, right?" He nodded, already drifting off. "I know. And that no one, can ever take me away from you?" He yawned. "Not unless they bring dinosaurs. Real ones." I grinned. "Then we're good." He didn't ask if I was leaving. Didn't ask if his mom was coming back. Didn't bring up the people who made him feel small. He just whispered, "Good night," and closed his eyes. I stayed in the chair beside his bed for a long time, listening to the quiet rhythm of his breathing. The storm, the collapse, the betrayal, the unraveling. It had passed. But the lessons stuck. The wounds were healing. And for the first time in a long time, there was peace. They tried to cut me out of his life. But love doesn't disappear in silence. Love rebuilds. It remembers. It rises. And as I sat there in the dim light, watching my son sleep, I knew one thing for sure. They tried to erase me. But what's real can't be erased.